The 3rd of June 2998, Tesheg Mountains, Eastern Temple. There are less than 100 honored Tesheg across all 3 temples. When an honored one is nearing the end of his days and can feel himself growing weaker, the passage of legacy begins. Once announced, he leaves the temple, descends from the mountains, and is never to be seen again. 3 days later, the honored hunt begins. I stood alone in my quarters, sharpening my claws for the coming battle. The steel tips embedded within my skin, being shaved down to a fine razor's edge as I donned my hunting robes. There are very few rules to the hunt. No weapons other than the claws you have earned from surviving your birth trek. No gear other than your robes of daily wear. And once the hunt begins, it does not end until a candidate returns the honored one's claws to the temple. If all candidates fail to send him on to the next world, he takes his life with his own claws, and his legacy dies with him. A candidate only has one opportunity to take part in an honored hunt, and if they fail, they can never achieve the title of an honored one. I had been reared since birth to assume this mantle, and only death itself can keep me from earning what is mine. There were 5 candidates taking part, far fewer than in hunts past. Maybe it was because many feared the one we were hunting, or maybe it was because many feared me. I don't know. We stood on the edge of the rocky cliffs elevating the eastern temple. The snow-capped mountains of Hamla towered above us. We looked down onto the vast expanse below, a blanket of white clouds stretching between the ridges and valleys that concealed our prey from us. I looked at the other candidates, all bearing stoic expressions in deep concentration about the task ahead. It was likely none of us may return. Our target was no mere honored one. We were not hunting one with an ordinary legacy. We were hunting a legend, the Grand Regent himself. Being successful on the hunt would result in assuming the glory of the Tesheg people. I had been bred for this, raised with it as my sole purpose. Decades of training had brought me to this moment, and I had never felt more alive. I could already imagine his crimson blood dripping from my claws. I was going to savor this feeling for as long as I lived. I alone would be the one to rip the claws from his body. I alone would be the one to send him on to the next world in glorious battle. I alone will be the one to kill my father. The bell tolled once for each soul the Grand Regent had taken during his life. I must say, even I got bored once we reached the 10-minute mark. Once the last ring had finished echoing off the great cliffs of the temple, the hunt began. While the others sprang off the cliffs, I bided my time for a moment before leaping from the ledge, landing atop another of the candidates. There were rules against killing another candidate, of course. However, there is nothing stopping me from crippling him. It's encouraged, even. I landed on his back, tackling us both to the ground. Wrapping my claws around his chest, I tore ligament from bone, tissue from sinew. I left him gasping for air as I wiped my claws clean of his blood. An opponent so weak was not worthy of my claws in his flesh. I descended the mountain to the lush valley below. I passed through the veil of clouds into a forest dense with fog, teeming with the life of the jungle. This was home, not hiding behind the cowardly walls of the temple in the clouds. I belong here, in the forest, in the dirt and the leaves and the blood. All Tesheg are brought into the world in the depths below, and only earn their steel if they can claw their way through the jungle and up the cliffs. The forests were a place of beasts, of killing and carcasses. This was where I belonged. Once I was well enough into the forest, I took in the scents around me, filling my senses with the overwhelming smells that filled the jungle like a noisy crowd. I picked out the familiar one, the one of my father. But there was something else in the plethora of odors that developed me, one that stood out to me, something that did not belong. It intruded into the depths of the jungle, overpowering the natural scent of the wilderness. No matter. I will not allow anything to take my mind off of my kill, my birthright. I found the first body of another candidate not much later. Deep claw marks littered her body, fresh blood soaked into the ground that greedily lapped it up. Her missing appendages and lack of a face were welcome signs that I was near. Off to the left, a thunderous roar shook the jungle, sending birds and pitiful animals scampering in my direction. I leapt into a sprint in the direction of the commotion. The fog was thick, obscuring the world beyond in all directions. But the smells, the scent of blood, fear, and death, oh, they were glorious. How I yearned to be the one causing them soon. The jungle cleared ahead, the opening in the brush concealed by the mist that encompassed me. I strode into the circle, stepping over the bodies of the fallen candidates. It was beneath me to even glance upon them. An early death without a kill is for the weak. The sense ahead told me I had arrived, but that odor from before was back, that otherworldly one. Standing in the grass facing each other were 2 figures. That shouldn't be the case? The others were dead, I saw it. One did not belong. The mist settled around them, revealing the crimson blood that coated the green clearing, turning it into a work of art. Then I noticed the blade protruding from my father's chest. The being behind him thrust it upward, ripping out the ribs of the Grand Regent with ease. It kicked him to the ground unceremoniously as he choked on the blood pooling in his lungs. The thing before me was donned in an armor that was once black and gray, now a mosaic of blood and fluids. Beneath the thick plates that covered the majority of its body was a tight suit that encompassed the rest of it. Atop its head was a helmet that hid all its features behind an orange visor that faintly glittered in the light that penetrated the fog. Various pouches and containers adhered themselves to its body as if by magic. The helmet was small, hinting at shallow facial features and binocular eyes. Shame, I expected more after hearing so much about your kind. It's a wonder how any even feared you. The voice was cold, emotionless, robotic, but understandable. I felt the rage inside me build at the small creature as it reached down and snapped the neck of my father and retrieved its blade. I was fueled by anger and hate. Not anger because it had stolen my father's life, but because it had stolen my kill. It had stolen the honor I had dreamt of obtaining since the day I clawed my way into existence from this stone pit. You dare interrupt the rite of passing. You dare steal what is rightfully mine, my glory, my kill. Oh, you're much bigger than this one, louder too. Calm down. You're gonna burst a blood vessel or something with all that yelling. Disgraceful, you have not earned the right to speak in our tongue. Ill tear it from your maw so you cannot dishonor our... For fuck's sake, shut up. They're all fucking animals, Tack. I swear, why are we even doing this? Although I have to admit you look like you might be a fun warm-up. No more words, only your blood shall flow from your mouth this point onward, I roared, claws outstretched leaping for the frail creature's throat. I went to dig my claws into the thin suit around its small neck. It didn't make a move to retreat as I did so, only looking at me with what I assumed was interest. Pitiful. It doesn't even resist its execution, I thought, as my steel made contact with its throat. And then my claws stopped. An immeasurably small distance away from its skin. Impossible. Ooh, steel claws? Damn, tough luck. That certainly won't help you here. It spoke nonchalantly as it reached up, grabbing my wrists with its hands. I felt the bones shatter in its grasp and tried to pull free of its iron grip. It didn't relent as the thing pulled back and launched me into a tree meters behind it. Wow, much faster than that last one too, and you still got your hands? Damn, that's impressive. Really it is. Honestly, most of the time my grip just goes right on through. Bones, rock, muscle, you name it. It's disappointing, really. Robs me of the satisfaction of watching them struggle. I stood up, glaring down as I towered over the monster that slowly walked towards me. Impossible. No matter, I may have finally found an opponent worthy of my time. Come at me. What happened to no more words, only blood or whatever? Hey, fuck it. I'm starting to enjoy myself. It paused for a moment, as if it was listening to something. Yeah, yay, Tack, don't worry. I'll be back on task soon enough. Just let me wrap things up here, then I'll be on mission, okay? All right, where were we? Right blood from my mouth. Silence, demon. Face me and fear me if you dare. I ran forward once more, intent on ending its pathetic life, making it atone for what it had done. I rushed towards it with the full force of my body behind my charge. It nearly held its footing but collapsed as I took us both to the ground. I reared back, smashing my skull against the bright orange visor of its helmet. Blood poured from my face as I continued my assault. The third time cracking the glass that concealed the upper half of its face. It threw its arms up and thrust me off of it onto my back. It stood above me looking down, its helmet covered in my blood, the visor that was once orange now dripping with my blood. This shit is expensive, you know? Filthy beast, you're gonna regret that. I planned on making this quick, but you've since changed my mind. It ran towards me with speed that I believed only an Aconix could manage. I rolled away as its fist made contact with the rock I was leaning against, shattering it into pieces as it did so. It reeled back and kicked me hard enough to send me into the air, smashing through a tree off to the side of the clearing. I felt my heart rate quicken along with my breathing. The world around me seemed to narrow as thoughts raced in my mind. I had never felt this feeling before. It was so foreign to me. It felt like running was the only option I had left. I never believed a Tesheg was even capable of thoughts like this. What was this thing doing to me? Oh, now you're starting to get it, how outclassed you are, how weak you are in comparison. Its robotic words rocked me to my core. It leaned down, grabbing me by one of my forearms and threw me again. It didn't let go this time. Rather, it tightened its grip into a fist with a strength it shouldn't have been capable of. I landed on the other side of the clearing, crashing into my father's body. When I opened my eyes again, it was stalking towards me with malicious intent. It threw the other half of my arm to the ground, and crushed it beneath its feet as it strode onward. The feeling was overpowering now. I couldn't focus on the fight. I couldn't isolate a single thought. The sound of my own heartbeat drowned out the ambience of the jungle around us. You seem confused. I can see you trying to process this. It's kind of funny to watch, really. I can hear your heart rate rising, your breathing getting faster, getting hard to focus now, is it? Feels similar to a hunt, don't you think? Let me enlighten you on that feeling, it said softly as it loomed over me looking down. It's called fear. I tried to scramble back as it grabbed the back of my neck, lifting me with ease. Its fingers clenched around my spine, bringing us face to face. The cracks in its visor tinged red as my blood leaked through it. I tried to look beyond it, to see what was really beneath, but the facade wouldn't give. I tried reaching out with my one remaining paw, to grasp at the thing's face in a useless effort. I hear your kind loves a good fight, loves blood, yes? Let's see how much you really love it. With the last word, it slammed me face first into my father's chest. The cracking of ribs and tearing of tissue flooded my ears. The beast didn't relent as it lifted me again and again, smashing my face against the exposed bones and organs of my father's corpse. Each attack broke more bones. Their jagged edges stabbed through my face and into one of my eyes. With one final slam, it buried my face in the pool of blood and osseous fragments that had once been the Grand Regent's chest. I tried pulling back to get just enough room to breathe, but its grip held firm. I choked as bone fragments and blood filled my mouth and nose. I was helpless as the creature was drowning me in the blood of my father. I tried to breathe in, but the blood forced itself into my lungs and made it impossible. I finally knew what it was like to be helpless, what it was like to be prey. I never knew my kind was capable of feeling fear. Through all our legends, it had made it seem like an impossibility. I had never believed that I would find something that had the ability to hunt me, but I refused to die here. I refused to let this intruder kill me here, in my home. I could feel my body giving out, starved of oxygen for too long. I mustered the last of the strength within me, pulling my knees underneath me and reaching up. I felt my fist clench around one of the few remaining ribs of my father, tearing it free. I stabbed it into my trachea and exhaled a long-held breath. The blood that filled my lungs was expended while my face was still buried in blood and entrails. I filled my lungs through the hole in my windpipe, feeling my body have a resurgence of energy as I did so. Clenching the rib tightly in my grasp, I stabbed at the hand that trapped me in this hell. The demon's grip loosened in surprise, enough for me to break free. I stood up, knocking back the monster that held me there. Fuck! How? This shouldn't be possible. No matter. Your kind will only be a memory on this world in less than 12 hours. I'm glad to facilitate the extinction of your species. Fucking felines. Good riddance. You have no place in our empire. It's a shame you will not be there to witness it. I promise to rip that tongue from your maw demon, and I intend to keep it. Where were we? Filled with a newfound hope, I charged the monstrosity before me and tackled it to the ground once more. My arm may have been severed below my elbow, but that doesn't mean it was useless. The exposed bone was sharpened into a jagged point that I plunged deep into the demon's concealed face. The orange glass that had acted as its envoy unto our world shattered, and I felt its soft flesh give way beneath my bones. I stabbed the remnants of my arm into its face again and again, until my bones had nearly shattered a second time, not even noticing it had stopped moving long ago. I collapsed onto the ground, spitting the blood out of my mouth and catching my breath. Nobody was coming to look for me. Nobody would be here to save me and bring me back to my people. I was alone, but I had always been solitary in life. That had never stopped me before. I don't need to be brought back home. I am home.